button. Let me hit the button. Oh, the things that go on behind the scenes. I know you're all thinking, what does that woman do all day? You'd be surprised. You'll be very surprised. Okay, so a couple of things as we are preparing for. I've been looking forward to this conversation because I found myself when I was talking to Nat a month and some ago. I was like, how many times have I done things that are self-sabotaging? But I was like, ugh. So this is true to my heart. I will tell you that. And before we get into all of it, let me play some theme music and then we will get ourselves started. Because it is still afternoon. Good afternoon, or depending on where you are, evening or morning. This is Gwendolyn, G.R. Houston Jack, and welcome to Small Biz Bites. Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know what it is. Clearly, Facebook doesn't like me anymore because it wants to disconnect, so we'll work on that later. But we are streaming live to LinkedIn and to YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, we would love for you to like, share, and subscribe. I'd also like to know where you're all tuning in from, and if by chance the topic of self-sabotage touches your heart, I can tell you right now, I won't even pretend that I haven't done some things that I look back and say, Gwendolyn, not the best idea, not the best. Before we get into everything, I will say this. Last week, oh my goodness, wow, I have to really give thanks to my guest, Ja Allen, for being so understanding with me last week. I was clearly on a whole nother planet, running on fumes, so much so that I showed up to the show 30 minutes early. 30 minutes. I'm like, well, where is my guest? I don't know what's going on. Yeah, it wasn't time yet. It wasn't time, but I have slept since then. And I am on all cylinders again. So that is a great thing. Before we talk to our guests, hey, we want to shout out to Gary, who is in the building. Yes, it is Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. It's Wednesday. Where is the time going? Where is it going? I'm curious because I could have sworn April just started. And here it is. April is going out very fast. So I want to get into one of my favorites, which is 3 truths and 1 lie. So, Nat, I will tell you right now, you get to share 3 facts about yourself that are true and 1 lie. And we're going to guess which one is not quite right. You gotta love saying that. All right. What do you have, sir? What's your first fact?
All right. The first fact is that I'm a grandfather.
Okay, grandfather. All right. Okay. Number 2.
Number 2 is I am very efficient at shooting down flies with rubber bands.
Okay. Very efficient at shooting down flies with a rubber band. You say it so well. I have to. I'm not going to say what I'm voting on yet. Okay. Number 3.
Number 3 is I'm the youngest of 3 brothers.
Okay. Youngest of 3 brothers. All right. That's responsible. And number 4.
Number 4 is I was ordained as a Buddhist monk.
Okay. So we got grandfather. Very efficient at shooting down flies with a rubber band. It's so specific. I don't know. It's talking to me. Number 3 was the youngest of 3 brothers. And number 4 is an ordained Buddhist monk. All right. That's I keep going back to number 2, but I don't know. For some reason, I feel like number 3 may be the way to go. I'm not going to say yet. For those in the audience, if you're just coming in, we are doing our 3 truths and 1 lie. And Nat is telling us that he's a grandfather or a very efficient, he's very efficient at shooting down flies with a rubber band. He could be the youngest of 3 brothers, or he's an ordained Buddhist monk. All right, Nat, here's where I'm going. And shout out to my mother, who is giving us all the welcomes right now. He's giving us all the welcomes. Hello, mother, welcome. She says hello to everybody. Now, Gary says that it must be number 1, that you're not a grandfather. But it sounds so good. I'm going to go with number 3. I'm thinking that you're not the youngest of 3 brothers. So tell us, are you a grandfather, Nat?
I am a grandfather. I have two grandkids. Ooh, but good guess, Gary. I was using the young look card with that one. The one that got carded until I was, I don't know, in my 30s. What's next? Oh, you want to know which is the lie?
Well, I'm thinking we have another guest in here. Hey, Hainer, hello. We are doing 3 truths and 1 lie. We already know that Nat is a grandfather. So what's left is very efficient at shooting down flies with rubber band. Youngest of 3 brothers, and the ordained Buddhist monk. Hainer is saying he's voting for fly. I'm thinking it's number 3. I'm thinking that you're not the youngest. So are you very efficient at shooting down flies?
I am. The skill I developed when I was a kid.
Hello, Serena. Welcome in as we're figuring out what's going on. Okay, Nat, I'm sorry. How is it that shooting down flies with a rubber band is something you're efficient at?
So, yeah, I don't know. When I was a kid, there was, my mom always cooked great food, but the windows were open, and so we'd always have so many flies in the house. And there were just some that you could never reach with a fly swatter. So I just got good at shooting them with rubber bands, and to this day, if I need to get something down, that's what I use.
That's a skill that may come in handy sometime in the future. Who knows?
Yes.
and Gary says you definitely young. So hey.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
It worked out. Okay. Are you the youngest of 3 brothers?
I am not.
Yes.
You are correct, Gwendolyn.
All right, so before we go there, then I gotta go. So you are an ordained Buddhist monk.
Well, I was ordained as a Buddhist monk. I'm no longer ordained, but I did that when I was, I believe 17.
Oh. Man, you were young. You've been doing some stuff. So now we have to go and say, okay, wait. So you are the oldest? Are you the second out of these?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Oh, look at you. Do you have the oldest sibling tendencies?
I probably do. Tell me what they are and I will affirm or deny.
Okay, so my sister, and I love her dearly for doing all the things, did all the things. And I just took notes because like the firstborn is for some parents, it's the test. It's like, do we know what we're doing and have we figured it out? And so the firstborn also kind of gets into stuff, or they're the person who does all the things that are like top tier, right? So it's one of those two I have found. Now, I'm not the oldest of my family, clearly, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say that expectations were higher for me. I mean, that's my experience of it. I'd have to ask my brothers to be sure. But I would say that their kind of overprotectiveness and strictness loosened or lessened as the third one came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know that because my baby brother, and I know my mother's in here, but by the time my two brothers came along, all the things that we had, they were like, who cares? I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. And then when the grandkids came along, it was a whole nother conversation. So everything changed. I will definitely say that. So we know that Hater says, please teach me the secret art of flying. Kind sir.
Maybe it'll become a course. Who knows?
It could be. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating. So tell us, Nat, who are you and what is your superpower?
Wow. I mean, I wish my superpower was to be able to teleport. But I mean, how cool would that be, right? To just blip somewhere, not have to deal with current travel stuff. Yeah. I mean, I would love that. But it's a good question. What is my superpower? I would say a lot of people would say that my superpower is compassion or love. My ability to be with someone and have them feel safe enough to let their guard down is something that I hear a lot.
I think that's I'm not gonna say I think. I am going to go with I know. That is a superpower many of us would appreciate because the world has gotten, just a little funny. And we talk about having safe spaces for people to just be themselves. And I have to admit, I was telling someone earlier, I'm an odd duck. So if you can deal with all of this, God bless you. Because it's a lot going on over here. But it is great that you allow people to be at a place where they feel safe enough to let their guard down, and you are compassionate. So I'm digging that one. I am definitely digging that one. Let me get more of these comments as Gary's given us his laughing emojis, and also, that's one of really teleporting. Look, if I had to think about what my superpower would be, I need to probably work more on that. Although I do like the teleporting idea. I also want a George Jetson kitchen, so we can talk about that too. Before we get into it, somebody owes me right now because I could have sworn we were like in the 2000s. We were supposed to have like these fancy homes and flying cars and rosy robots, and we're not there yet. We're not.
Yeah. Jetsons, to manifest something out of thin air, like a meal, right. Or that's what
Yeah. Now, some of the stuff, as we have seen, and probably some people's social posts have come true, where we're doing teledoc and other things that we saw, like in the cartoon. So we know that there has been some movement, but I am still waiting on advancements in the kitchen. We're doing everything else. Smaller TVs, smaller phones, better cameras. We need to focus on the kitchen, people. It's the kitchen. Now we got the iRobot. That's great. We need to work on the kitchen.
Yeah, and they're kind of working on things that aren't really, to my sense, not so important in the kitchen. Like, they have Wi-Fi in refrigerators, or like, I don't need the refrigerator talking to me. Really.
I don't need that. I don't need that. I need some real, what's the word? I need usable technology, some real good technology, right?
Yeah.
Well, Nat, your business is titled Inquisitive Journeys. Tell us about that before we get into this conversation that, again, touches me.
I've been someone that's always been curious. I like to explore different ways of being. Like, I remember as a kid, I used to read the Popular Mechanics, and I was always looking in the classifieds with like all different types of inventions and things like that. And even now as a business owner, I'm always kind of checking out what other people are doing. and just curious about that, how people are doing things, what works for them, what's new. It could be a handicap sometimes because, that whole shiny object syndrome. Like I can be so distracted in what everyone else is doing that it can, distract me from doing what's important. But so at the core of Inquisitive Journeys is this invitation, through my coaching and also eventually through travel, is a way to get out of our normal routines, a way to adopt another way of seeing or being, and seeing what it highlights for us. What do we see differently about who we are or how we show up? What gets exposed when we step out of our normal routine, as an invitation to choose what's more in alignment with who we are, right? More in alignment with how we want to live our lives, because it's so easy to live based on what is default, what we've been conditioned into, right? And so, I love to travel. And one of the things that I love about travel is that I get to see how other cultures operate. And one of my favorite stories to share is, like, if you go to Thailand and you're in Bangkok and the traffic is just crazy, more so than you would find here in the US. Their familiarity with rules is different than what we have here, but road rage is not common. People will cut you off, people will back up on the highway, and there's no honking, there's no people screaming at you saying you're an idiot. It's just commonplace. And so that got me curious of, like, oh, okay, that road rage, that frustration at other people really has nothing to do with the traffic. It has to do with how we're brought up, our relationship with rules, our relationship with time, right? In the US, a lot of people are in a rush. They're trying to cut off like a minute or two out of their, GPS, for what, and was the comedian Trevor Noah. I went to one of his shows and he talked about how, like, why are people in such a rush to get home like a minute or two earlier to get on social media? Like, yes. It's like these sort of things that when I travel, I pay attention to things like this. And that's what I'm inviting people to do through the coaching as well, is let's just get curious about how you're being or what you're doing. Let's bring more compassion to yourself instead of judging yourself that there's something wrong with you, that you need to be fixed. What if we met yourself with compassion and curiosity? What would that open up for you?
Gary says, preach. And I'm with you. Like, when I remember getting up and going into the office in the formal life, and I would see people rush. I'm thinking, surely you're not that anxious to get to work, because you still have to do your 8 hours. Like, any faster.
Yeah.
You really trying to get to work that early? I'm just asking. I mean, I loved my job. So I'm just kind of like, what exactly is it that you're running and gunning for? As my mother says, you're just, racing to the grave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because also too, they often wind up getting there at the
same time. Yeah. Or, and this has happened for me. I'm not saying that, like, I'm completely free of the rush or feeling the rush. Like, it happens for me, and then I have to remind myself. But I mean, I've had where I'm like, oh, I need to be there, because my upbringing, my mom grew up in a military family, and so her influence on me was like, okay, you got to be there on time. If you're late, you're screwed, or it doesn't look good, right? I have that conditioning in my body, that urgency. But there are times where I'm in that mode, and then to kind of escape the feeling or the projection of, oh, this is going to happen, I rush, and then I get there and I gotta wait anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And it takes me a moment to calm down and, and realize, okay, that was kind of stupid. Right. So
I will say, as a person who's an educator, I always told students that, early is on time and on time is late, and late is not acceptable. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's just what it is. So people are like, oh my God, I'm early. It's like, no, you're actually on time, because we want to start at, right. So I get that completely, but I don't remember rushing for a lot of stuff. Even in New York City, if the train was coming and I was going to miss it, we were just going to miss it. I'm not running for a train. There's another one coming. But I always operated early so that even if something was to happen or I missed something, we were still on time because we built in this buffer.
Yeah.
Sometimes I found myself waiting a whole hour because I was like, I built in the buffer and then I did another buffer without knowing. Yeah, sometimes that happens. It happens too. Just not on purpose, but thinking too much. Serena says, I like the ones who are rushing to get around you in traffic, to just be stuck at the with you.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think that happened to me today. Yeah.
And I admit, sometimes that's me, but in my head, I am telling myself, at least I'm not behind you who's driving slower. So I don't know if that's my way of saying, I don't know. I'm trying to find the win. I'm trying to find the win. So let's talk about this, because you and I had a great chat some time ago. And when you started talking about self-sabotage and how you went through your own journey of self-doubt and overcoming that, I thought, okay, Nat, you're going to have to come and share your experience and your expertise with this community of small business owners and creatives. I'm coming from a place of, a friend of mine did a reporting on the Facebook effects. This is early on with social media, that people kept seeing these images of perfect land, which we all know does not exist. But then some people took it and wanted to go one step higher than that person. And then some people took it and was like, oh my God, like I am failing at life. And so if they were already on the cusp of it's not going well, it really went downhill. So let's start with your journey and how you overcame self-doubt.
Yeah. It's been a long journey. I had self-doubt and low self-worth from an early age, like a kid. I remember crying in my bed, wondering why I was alive, like what my purpose was. So I would say that I probably came in with if you believe in kind of like soul paths or things like that, it's like that was probably a big part of my journey to experience and to overcome. I jumped into personal development, did spiritual work, and there were definitely improvements in my life experience. But I always struggled with my business. I've had several, and I've always struggled financially, and I've come to realize that what that was showing me was that it didn't have to do. So I'll step back for a second. I thought that things weren't working out because I didn't know marketing well enough. And I can't tell you how much money I sunk into marketing programs and formulas and systems and that sort of thing, right? And then I thought, well, I need to work on my energy. And so I was like doing like energy work and things like that. And sure, there's some shifts, but then I still found myself holding back or trying to find other ways to get to what I wanted to do. I worked on mindset stuff, and that, only got me so far. And so I came to realize that at the core of what I was feeling was that I didn't feel safe. and I was trying to feel safe by achieving these external things, by having the money or having the right partnership, or trying to do the right thing but worried about doing the wrong thing. These are all types of self-sabotage. And so more recently, I've come to recognize that self-sabotage is a form of self-protection. And that there is a part of ourselves, often young, that had something happen to him or her or today, and that that causes that part of us to project forward to avoid having a similar experience, right? And the thing is that young part of ourselves didn't have the whole picture, so they're operating on a picture that's not complete.
Yes.
Right? So like, let's say an example would be, you learn that you had to be good to make mom or dad happy. And so you were good, and you seemingly did everything that they told you that you needed to do. And then they were still upset with you out of the blue for no reason that made sense. And so that young part of you might have thought, well, I wasn't perfect enough.
Yeah.
Right? Because from the kid's mind, it doesn't make sense. Like, oh, I did this. I must have missed something.
Yeah.
Right? And so then you carry that with you, like, oh, I need to do more. I need to be more perfect, because then it would make sense to that kid's mind that I could then receive the love. I can then avoid the upset. And we live with that in our bodies. And we also learn that discomfort, that all discomfort is bad, with that we are meant to avoid pain.
Yes.
And so when we lump it all together, and so when our kid mind is saying, okay, don't do that thing because it's going to be uncomfortable, or it's going to take too long, or you're going to look stupid, or people are going to laugh at you, whatever it is for you, you're going to feel that discomfort, and it's going to be like a repellent for you. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to procrastinate. I don't like feeling this. And then you learn as a kid to get rid of that. You had to take care of other people. You needed to do this or that. You didn't learn how to be with your own discomfort.
All right, Nat. I'm sitting here writing down all the notes.
Let me ask you, because it looks like my screen is really dark. Is that what it's showing on your end?
Well, it does. It does. We have lost some of the light. We have lost some of the light in you. So I will let you. I'll let you get your light there. We don't want to lose you.
Yeah, I'm still here. It's weird. I got this light shining on me, but
perhaps the will work. We'll let you get your light there.
I don't know.
I want to go back to as you're working that out. I want to just bring up some of the points that I took from what you shared, and the biggest one, because there's so much in there, and I don't know if the crowd. I'm sure the crowds feel the same way, because we just kind of catch these things, but that not feeling safe. And so we take to, I'm going to use the word collecting all of these external things, to sort of hide
Right.
that we don't feel safe. And that self-sabotage is simply a form of self-protection. So we get in our way, and there is more than likely something that is coming from our childhood trauma, or mixed messages from parents or loved ones, educators, things of that nature, that we're trying to figure out, and we've never outgrown that thought. So we do stuff to keep us from moving forward. I often think of people who get stuck in analysis paralysis. They find all the reasons to not move forward and to not do something, or procrastinate and doing something, and
Right.
then time passes us by. We're like, oh, well, it's too late now, right? And getting comfortable with that discomfort, which we talk about as adults, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. I think, well, shoot, if we had done that when we were younger, we'd be masters by now because we would have gotten used to it.
Yeah, well, so there's this other thing that's happening is that because self-sabotage is the self-protection, we kind of build up this this wall or this filter. And so we live behind this filter of I'm not the filter serves kind of like a buffer, and it we don't actually see the truth of what's actually happening. We see a version of what's happening through the filter that we have up. A beautiful story of this is it's kind of funny. So I was in my tango lesson with my wife, and I learned Argentine tango. And my teacher was having me in the dance hold is called the embrace in tango. And so he's like, I need to feel your hand more on my back. Like he was being having me embrace him, just as a teaching moment.
Yes.
And he's like, I need to feel more of you. Like your hand is just there, but I need to feel your hand's presence there. And he had me what to me felt like grabbing him in the shoulder blade. And I was kind of laughing hysterically because it felt so uncomfortable for me based on my conditioning, my culture of like, I feel like I'm being creepy here and I'm grabbing you on your back. And he's like, well, here's what's happening is the sensation to you is that you're grabbing me and it's uncomfortable. But the sensation for me is that you're barely there. And that I need to feel more of, like, he gave an example of like if you were trying to hold a plate vertically and you needed to like, gather the sides of your palm together to create like a suction cup on the plate to hold it. He's like, that's what I need to feel more of, but I don't feel that from you. And that's something you need to practice. And he says, what's going to happen is you're going to practice it, and then you're going to go back to how it was because that felt more familiar and comfortable. And I'm going to need you to remember to have more grip. And this is actually what happens in self-sabotage, is that we operate within what feels familiar and comfortable, what is known, and anything that's outside of that feels uncomfortable, right? Like if someone is afraid of being too much, coming across as too much or asking for too much, then they're going to hold back. And to them, what is being too much is really far from what is actually being too much, because they don't want to trip that threshold. So they're very cautious of like, I don't want to come across that way.
That goes to, how we often talk about the stories we tell ourselves. So like you mentioned, here you're thinking, this is kind of creepy. I'm holding him, I'm grabbing this guy. He's like, yeah, as the person who is your partner in this dance, you're not even there.
Yeah.
You're not even there.
Right.
And we can get into this place of, okay, I'm going to do it. But then the moment you get a chance, you're going to go back. I remember telling my team quite often that instead of saying step out of your comfort zone, I encourage them to say expand.
Yeah.
If you can step out of it, you can step back in. And we don't want to go back.
Right.
We want to grow that comfort zone.
Yeah.
So stay out and keep getting out versus step out and then, okay, well, things are done. So I'm going to go back to the way things were because it's comfortable.
Yeah.
And humans enjoy comfort. We like knowing, although we cannot help the future. We like routines. We like knowing what's coming because it makes us feel comfortable as well as safe. There's a reason.
Yeah,
why it's
exactly. That's the key there, is safe. And I would even go more toward familiar than comfortable.
Familiar.
Because oftentimes we're in a space that may not actually be comfortable. We may not like it, but it's familiar in our bodies. And so we stay with it. And when we change from it in our bodies, it feels like, oh, there's something missing, or we feel naked or something exposed. And so we don't like that feeling. And so we've learned, well, to fix it, we just need to go back to how it was. Right. And we see this a lot, more of an extreme of like people that have had abuse. And they stay in abusive relationships because it feels familiar to them. And maybe they have a belief that if they are different, then they won't be loved, or they won't have a partnership. And so in very similar ways, we believe that in business. If I show up as my full self, as who I really am, then people won't like me. I won't have business. I'll be poor. Yeah. Right? This is what I think people expect of me. This is what I think people want from me. So I'm going to fit this mold and be kind of miserable. But it's what I think I need to be in order to have business.
That's a good one. Before we continue, okay, so I know we were still talking while you were working on your light. Do you need more time?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
He's like, I don't know what
let me try. Let's see.
We can take a quick
No,
pause.
That's worse.
As I think about the part about being exposed, because often when we talk about business relationships, and I think about all the relationships, be it from employer to employee or leaders, I use that a little loosely because just because you have a title doesn't make you a leader.
Right.
But if you look at some of the older models, the idea of being vulnerable and honest and saying that you don't know something or are not aware of, people saw it as a sign of weakness and not strength. And so therefore people had this, what you want to call it, protection, kind of this guard is up that is like, no, we only do this and and it's like, no, we all make mistakes and we don't know everything. But the times have, I believe, shifted where we want to see people being vulnerable and saying, you know what, I really don't have it all together. But no one really does. That was always a lie. It was always some lie that we told ourselves to get ourselves out of the bed in the morning, or to make others believe that we were quality or worthy or of value. Anything in there.
Yeah. Oh, so true. I mean, that thing about having it all together, that fits one of the archetypes in my framework, which I call the no-needer. And often this archetype is the one that feels like they have to show up as they have it all together. They're often taking care of other people's needs before their own. They don't like to ask for help because they see that as a vulnerability, or they see it as a burden. They see it as like receiving help as a burden, but they don't see the value that they give to others by, being their help. And someone like this, and I can speak very clearly about it because this has showed up for me, is oftentimes it's someone that grew up, they were maybe empathic, like they were in tune with other people's needs before they were.
Yeah.
And you learn that, oh, I'm valuable by being aware of other people's needs, and so I'm known as the helper, right? I'm known as the rock for other people, and so they take on that role. They identify as that person, and are valued only again, as a kid, you're like, oh, I'm valued as the one that steps up. Sometimes also, like, this is for me, where I was the oldest. My mom had depression. I ended up kind of needing to take care of my mom and my brothers. And so I made up in my mind that their needs were more important than mine. I could go without. And so, it's the innocence of that as a kid of like, oh, well, I needed to pick up the slack. I don't want to ask mom. I don't want to ask mom for help because she obviously needs more help than I needed.
Yeah.
And that's the kid's mind of just stepping in and saying, okay, I don't want to. And what might have also happened is you asked for help and you got some feedback that because someone didn't have the capacity to be with you. And then you learn, okay, I can only step up and be the help, but I can't ask for it.
Yeah. If you happen to get, and we'll say it could be chastised or something.
Yeah.
It becomes, okay, it's just better off not to ask.
Yeah.
When I do, I get this as a result. And it's interesting, like when you mentioned how you had to, help your mother and your brothers, that some people will carry that sort of savior, soldier mentality all the way through because that's what they've known. And it's worked for them. And then they get into this adult space and, we start learning that you can't pour from an empty cup. Like even the soldier gets weary, right? Like, there's gotta be a time where I need someone to depend on, but who is that? Because I've always been the dependable one for everybody else.
Right.
And I haven't built that support system to get myself together. So, I mean, you've been talking about self-sabotage and how it shows up for us in our everyday lives. Let's talk about the advice that we have to get past it. Because if you do have the person who has always been the savior, the person who's always taking care of other people because they're needed and they have a hard time asking for help, being vulnerable, maybe it's procrastination, analysis paralysis, all these things that we do to get in front of what could be. And I will say, I remember telling somebody when they were asking, what were you afraid of? And there are a lot of folks who had mentioned how they were afraid of failure, which I just see as learning opportunities, but I was afraid of succeeding. Because what if this worked out for me and I couldn't keep up? Or I couldn't meet someone's expectation. So I found myself not doing what I was supposed to do to put myself out there and keep the ball rolling.
Yeah.
What advice do you have? I took it off, but I put it down, took it off. What advice do you have for those who are battling the self-doubt and these self-sabotaging behaviors?
Yeah. I really believe that imposter syndrome or the self-doubt is another form of protection. It's, and so my advice is to, first of all, pay attention to your thoughts, not as a way to change them. This is not about changing our thoughts or changing beliefs, but just to notice that you will have a thought that is not grounded in the present moment. Right. So in your case, Gwendolyn, it's what if I can't handle it? But that's not based on who you are in the moment. It's based on it's based on a inferior identity in comparison to a future moment that you don't know whether it's going to happen or not. Right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is you have the thought, you feel the discomfort in your body, you don't like the discomfort, and you hold back. Right? And so coming back to your question in terms of self-doubt, you have a thought, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I can't handle this. Maybe, or not even maybe, like those people out there are going to expect more of me than I can give.
Yes.
And all of these thoughts are not rooted in the present. They're rooted into the future possibility and you don't have actually the capacity right now to be with something that that may or may not happen, right?
Yeah.
So what you can do then is just notice, oh, I have this thought that I can't handle it. And this is actually, I just created this, I just recorded this mindfulness practice about this very thing, where you just stop and you notice, what are my thoughts and what are my feelings, right? So in this case here, I noticed that I have this thought that I won't be able to handle it. I have this thought that I won't be able to meet expectations. I'm feeling discomfort in my body. I feel tension in my solar plexus, my upper abdomen. And you just continue to name everything that you're feeling, while at the same time recognizing that in this very moment you're safe. Where in this very moment you can have both, meaning you can have the discomfort, you can have the thoughts that you don't prefer, and you can have this sense of okayness, this awareness of all of this is happening and I'm actually okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you can recognize that, then you can just take the next step. You're not, because this happened a lot for me, where I would also have thoughts projected, and I didn't like what I was thinking, and I didn't like what I was feeling, and I learned, let's run away. Right? Let's avoid all discomfort. Let's find another way there, which for me often meant, let's just start a different business that seems like it might be easier and I don't have to confront things that are uncomfortable for me. Right? Well, we can all know where that goes. A whole lot of running around doing things that aren't going to get us anywhere we want to go. Right? So this method was a game changer for me, where I just started to notice what is here and recognize at the same time, I'm actually really okay. And that when that time comes where I may have more business than I know what to do with, or that I will meet people that have high expectations of me, when that is in front of me, then I'll figure out what to do with it. But I can't pre-plan for something that's not here in front of me.
Yeah. I'm sitting here writing all my notes, writing notes and thinking of questions. That thing about paying attention to your thoughts. And it's interesting because, I believe we're all evolving, right? And again, not one person has everything settled down. And even when you get, how you reach a pinnacle, you're like, yes, I've met my goal. And you're like, oh, there's another mountain up there. Okay, I got to keep climbing, right? Like we're never, right? We're never there. We're always growing, always evolving.
Right.
So you see yourself, the thoughts you had when you were down here, like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get this done? When you get here, you're like, okay, I got it done. And now what? Like, so it was so spot on. I do really appreciate the mindfulness reminder, because I do meditate, but writing down the thoughts and saying, okay, write down everything that we're feeling, all the things, put it on paper, just let it flow, and then recognize where you are in this moment. Because I shouldn't say I'm not, because clearly I am. I attempt to not be the what if person, but somewhere back here in one of these segments, there is a what if segment that is going down, and I have to recognize it. Gary says we always say that to each other in our conversations, the fear of success, which I personally think is far more frightening than the unknown. but again, it all depends on where you are. Now,
Well,
I was the person who got her head chopped off quite a few times. It's still here, so I'm like, yeah, let's try it. I mean, I was
yeah, yeah. We're not actually afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of what we project into the unknown.
Ooh.
Right? Because we face the unknown every day. We step out of our house, we get in the car, we drive somewhere. We have an expectation of how it's going to be, and so we're not reacting to it. But when we're stepping into fear of success, we're projecting our expectation. It's going to be too much, I won't be able to handle it. And because we don't know what to do with that, we haven't learned how to be with that, we hold back. We find other things to do, right? Yeah. But I mean, you could equally have an expectation of being able to handle it when it arrives. You can have an expectation that it's all going to work out, and there may be hardships, but you'll figure it out, right? So that's equally possible, but we don't spend a lot of time giving ourselves that space to imagine that way, right? Because we have that protective mechanism alive and turned on of like, well, but what if, right? What if this goes horribly wrong? What am I going to do? I don't know. Well, I don't know how to handle it, so let's just do nothing.
There may have been a moment or two just a few months ago. I was like, you know what? I really want to get this done. Clearly, I didn't want to get it done because I didn't even start it. So, and it's still sitting. It's like, you do know that this is still sitting over here. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get
I mean, I've been the sabotage king, like I proudly claim that. I can look through my past and see all the times that I blamed something else for why I didn't move forward, right? Like creating a product and then not feeling like it's going to be any good, and then blaming it on, well, I couldn't get the technology to work out. It was just too complex, right? I mean, and how often do you know that people that start a podcast or they start something and they get stuck on the technology? They're like, oh, but like, how do I get this work? Right. But all of that is just like, I'm trying to get it right, and I'm afraid of getting it wrong. And I'm focusing on things that are somewhat important, but really not that important right now.
Yeah. Oh, God, it is. I'm sitting here running through my thoughts, and I think to myself, when we talk about self-doubt and self-sabotage, I have to believe it happens far more often than we realize, right? And it could be for some of us, it is a place where we get like deer in the headlight and just freeze. And then maybe for a few of us, we kind of drag back foot, but we are moving forward, just dragging this one foot. Do you believe, and it's not here in the thing here, but do you believe that there is ever a place to not have any? Part of me says it's kind of like, it's human. It is human, but do you ever believe there will be a place of, you're just like, eh?
I would say that it is human, and I think it depends on our upbringing. I think some people will struggle with it more than others. I'm not saying that those that don't struggle with it are healthier. It's just sometimes people are like my wife is, she grew up in Ukraine. She's very good at just being focused and powering through. She doesn't dwell on a lot of stuff. It puzzles her how people dwell on stuff like me. And so in many ways that serves her, but in other ways, it might lead to overwork, right? Not paying attention to her body, or what's it doing? So again, I mean, it's not a great answer maybe, but it depends, right? But a big part of what I talk about in my work is like, it's okay. It doesn't matter how much self-sabotage you're with in your life. It is being human, and I think we get to embrace our humanity, right? Like, I came up on my spiritual path where I was like, well, let's just leave this earth. I mean, this is kind of like the spiritual path I was on. They were talking about like, we're going to shift out of this earth reality into another earth reality. I'm like, yeah, I'm all for it, because I wanted to escape the pain. But I've come around where I'm like, oh, well, okay, yeah, we are spiritual beings. We are having a human experience and a spiritual experience, and we get to embrace it all. Then there's beauty in that, where if I'm trying to escape my humanity, then I miss out on so much of what is good in life.
Yeah. There is a lot of good.
Yes.
There really is.
Yeah.
If I could take it back to where we started, when you were mentioning how you like to travel and observe and I'll say participate in other people's cultures. There are so many amazing things out in this world. It is just, sometimes I'm just awestruck.
Yeah.
Be it art, music, someone's writing, the food. Okay, really, the food. Just like there's so
the food,
much. Right?
Yeah. I was going to mention the food too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely about the food. But when you stop to just take it all in, you just have to tell yourself, it's a really amazing place, And you don't have to travel. You don't have to travel far. It could just be down the street, or it could be, around the other side of the continent. But just getting out and being present to enjoy what's going on around you, and having that childlike curiosity to explore.
Yeah, absolutely.
It definitely brings it home. Like, okay, this is worth it.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that's what healing self-sabotage allows us, is to be more present to life, right? Because when we're in self-sabotage, we're not present. We're in the filter. We're in the thoughts of who we think we are and who we should be and who we can't be. We're living, in the narrative of who we think we are, and we're not present. But when we can be with the stuff that's causing the self-sabotage, if we can be with that, we can heal that, then it gives us capacity to be with all of life.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Nat, I can't believe that we're almost at our hour. Tell us this: what's in the future for you and or your business, and how can we contact you for those who want to learn more about Inquisitive Journeys?
Yeah, thank you. So I am definitely in the process of growing and building this coaching business. That's a big focus right now. I'm doing local workshops and just wanting to meet people in person in their humanity. I do envision bringing in a travel component where we small group travel for people that are as curious about their inner world as they are about their outer world. And people can find me either on my website, inquisitivejourneys.com. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm sure you'll have links to that.
Yes.
And could I share the link to the mindfulness practice I just created?
If you put it in the private chat, or if you want to put it in the comments, you can do that too. Either way.
I'll put that in the comments here. So it's inquisitivejourneys.com/be with.
All right, let me copy this. Little hold music for us. There we go. There we go. Sweet. Now that's where they can find that mindfulness exercise that you described.
Yeah, they can sign up for it. It's audio, so they can access it either through. It's kind of like a private podcast, so they can access it either through their favorite player or through the app.
Sweet. That is, I meant what I said. I was writing down. I have all these notes over here. All these notes because, again, not one person has everything, and we are all evolving. We're all evolving.
Right.
That's when you think, okay, well, what else can I learn today? This is where these conversations come into play because it brings a different perspective. And then you do step back and say, okay, well, let me look at my journey and where I am. And some of the little things, okay, maybe I like this thing. Some of the things we've been doing that are causing us to not pull the trigger. Okay, that's also an awful phrase nowadays. To not move forward.
Yeah.
To not move forward.
Yeah, that's probably a better phrase.
I know, right? Like some of the phrases, like, oh God, that's an awful phrase when you really think about it. We don't want to do that. We want to move forward with our decisions and our aspirations and embrace all that life has set us. Because everybody has a gift that needs to be shared with this world. So I believe in that wholeheartedly. And sometimes we just need a little bit of an extra shake to get our gift out there. So I'm all for that. Before we let you go, I do want to tell everybody, hey, Friday is TGIFF. That G is Fire Friday, because not only will we be live for Girl Listen at 4:00 Central, we will also be on Indie Soup Media for Ladies Listen Up. And naturally, we're going to talk about how we're not for everyone. So as we talk about individuality and recognizing all the things about self, we're also going to tell you that, you know what? Like I said, I'm an odd duck. I'm fully aware, but I embrace all of my odd duckness. That is now a word.
I love that.
I tell you that it has been great having this conversation with you. Sincerely appreciate you giving us your time and your expertise and sharing your stories. Sharing your stories.
You're so welcome.
I want to share this comment again because Serena shared it before she left. She said, this was great, although she does have to head out. And so, again, as creators, a lot of us are feeling this self-doubt, self-sabotaging, some imposter syndrome, but there are ways for us to work through it so that we can move towards our next level, hit that next mountain. All right, we're going to see you guys on Friday.
Thank you.
Okay,
Gwendolyn.
wait a minute. That was the wrong one. Let's try this again. Hold on. You gotta love when it's live. Love it when it's live. Okay, now let's try it again. Thank you for watching another episode of Small Biz Bites with Gwendolyn R. Houston Jack, where we chat with other creatives and small business owners about their journey. And we also invite you to like, share, and subscribe to the GR Houston Jack YouTube channel, where you can get the latest and greatest.